Hi, welcome to another episode of Cyberside Chat. Today I have with me my guest, Jeffrey Tockman. If you've been to our executive virtual roundtables we've done, you've probably recognized Jeffrey. Jeff has been our moderator in those roundtables as well as a contributor many times, sharing his knowledge and expertise. I thought it would be great today to interview Jeff and to talk about two areas where he's an expert, one of which is the business of referrals. As a referral navigator, he helps businesses and individuals generate more referral business, and I wanted to speak to him about that. He also does a great deal of, what do you call it, Jeff?
Event moderation.
Event moderation, where he'll moderate various events either in person or virtual. And now post COVID-19, a lot of that's been online. I know a lot of people, although they've gotten accustomed to online meetings, they still struggle with how to have them effectively and how to control them. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to hear from the master. So with that, Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your history, and your expertise?
Thank you so much, Jess. It's really a pleasure to join you for these online calls and to be using the StreamYard platform to broadcast. First thing I'd like to take a moment to have you explain a little bit is about the StreamYard platform that we're using right now. How does it work? Maybe people might get an idea that they can do something.
Jeff, you froze. All righty then. Well, the StreamYard platform's a fantastic platform. It's used for multicasting your broadcast across many different channels. In this case, we're actually broadcasting against YouTube and Facebook. And what's nice about StreamYard is that you can send it to more than just one Facebook place. You can send it to your Facebook profile. You can send it to Facebook pages. You can send it to Facebook groups. You can also, if you've been accepted, send it to LinkedIn and use that as well. So what's really nice is you use a single portal to manage broadcasts across many different channels and areas, even when the dog's barking. So the other thing that's really nice about it is that it has the ability that if you have someone leaves a comment, let's say someone were to comment on this video live, they can see the video and see a little pop-up that comes up with the video with it. And then you're also able to leave little banners on there. So for example, there's a banner here. Now this particular banner talks about discussions and the fact that if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, you can actually leave a comment and be a part of the discussion. So that's really great. The other thing that's really great about this platform is that you can see the number of people that are watching it live and you can get their interaction if they leave a like and a comment or a message like that. So that's how that works out. Jeff has joined us back, and I've used enough of time talking about the StreamYard platform, Jeff. So back to you, buddy.
It's funny because you do usually start off in the beginning. You didn't get a chance to say it today, but sometimes we have technical problems that prevent us from connecting perfectly. So I don't know, maybe you already mentioned that.
I did. And I also got an opportunity for Buster to bark so everyone can know that I am working from home today.
Of course, aren't we all, for sure. Yeah, so you were asking me a little bit about my background. I went to law school, business school, so I have a JD MBA, and I worked in the financial services industry in the first half of my career. I'm 48 years old. And the second half of my career has been my own consulting company, my signage right behind me here for the Referral Navigator. So one of the things I did in the corporate world, which was a little ahead of its time back then, not truly, but really for most businesses, we did a lot of virtual work back 12, 14 years ago, where I was using a WebEx platform. I was sitting in the corporate office for what was then American Express Financial Advisors, became Ameriprise. And my team that I led of 14 people, they were all spread around the country. We're called field training. So they were in the field, I was in the corporate office. So I had to use the virtual tools to work with my own team, but more importantly, as they say, the teacher learns more than the student. The first day on the job, I was held responsible for training all of those 14 people how to use the virtual tools for their use so that they could train people with business development strategies across the whole country. So I learned a lot about how to use the WebEx tools and how to be interactive. We even had somebody on the team who was getting a master's degree in interactive virtual tools. So it was pretty amazing the skills that were developed in that time period. And it really sets me apart now, as a lot of companies are relying on the virtual tools to do business development. I had it sort of in my back pocket. I wasn't talking about it for about 10 years or 11 years, but certainly once COVID hit, it's something that I mentioned, as I'm mentioning now, that I have a lot of experience training people how to use those virtual tools from the corporate environment. And, it's an amazingly powerful tool. There's the downside, of course, which was obvious. I won't even address, too much, which is you're not face to face. You don't get to smell and touch the individual person, but you do get to see body language. You get to see their facial expressions. You of course, get to hear them. And then you have this additional ability to add chat, add hand raising, add a whiteboard that people can interact with at the same time. So there's a lot more interactivity that generally can be done and is done in a WebEx or a StreamYard or a Zoom, as of course is the most popular platform here today. I used one earlier today for what I call the JD networking group. It's a group for people who have a JD degree. So my experience in running the meetings virtually and also in person, I've been the navigator or facilitator or moderator of about 1,000 face-to-face type of events here in South Florida. And the number of events that I'm doing is just growing day by day. It's accelerating the number that I'm acting as the moderator for these days, and they're very successful. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of focus in order to do a great job as the moderator of a virtual event. You really have to engage with people and get their attention. You have to so-called call on someone in the back of the room in order to get them to pay attention. Call on people maybe when they're not expecting it right in the beginning. Give a lot of praise and enthusiasm. Those are some of the key tricks. But your question also went to my work experience. So about 90% of the time when I'm engaged by a client, I'm not hosting virtual events. I'm actually working as a business development consultant. So I work with clients on their business development strategy. I'm happy and proud to say, Jess, you are a client of mine, so we can use you as an example, which is great. One of the things we do is we talk about referral success stories. Story selling is something that's common, been around for decades. But referral story success is something that we add to make it even more robust. In other words, if you're telling a story about a prospect who became a client, as most businesses can and do, that's good. But if you tell a story about a referral source and then how they introduced you to a prospect who became a client and then how the referral source was happy, in other words, at the beginning and the end of the story, you have the referral source. Now the listener, who is more likely to be probably a referral source than a client, can relate to someone in the story. And if they are a prospect, they can relate to someone in the story. So telling referral stories of success, something we can go over a little bit more in detail here today, is I know you have a really good example that you can share. So I work with my clients to do assessments on their business development strategy. Most of the clients I work with don't really have a business development plan in place. I'll give you a brief list of the kinds of companies that I work with, actually, to give people a sense. I actually have the list in front of me. So I work with a bankruptcy law firm, a trust and estate law firm. I work with you, Jess, who does outsourced IT consulting, cloud, and cybersecurity. I work with a recruiting firm who's very referral based, transactional attorney law firm. I work with a tax controversy law firm, a criminal law firm, a family law firm, an employment law firm, also a commercial real estate brokerage firm, as well as a first party insurance, the ones you would use if you wanted to fight against your insurance company giving you too little on the claim that you're making against the policy. I also work with an alternative finance professional, someone you would go to in case the bank is not able to provide you a loan. And I also work with another additional transactional law firm, personal injury firm, an outside CFO consultant. And my newest client I'll be starting with this coming week on Wednesday is an outside CFO consulting firm. So they have about a dozen of these outside CFO consultants. And I'm just giving that as an idea to really give people the sense that the kind of businesses that I work with, as really all of those are businesses that are very known by getting their business through referrals, as probably most of our listeners get their business more through referrals than they do for advertising. They may have marketing strategies. They may have websites and pay-per-click and SEO and social media strategies, as we are embracing right now by doing something online. But the truth is, the vast majority of your clients, Jess, and most of the people listening, most of the clients are going to come through relationships. And that's two general sources. One is the clients themselves, the customers themselves, the patients themselves, if you will, if you're a doctor. That's really a great referral source. The second one is going to be the non-client professional synergistic. So if you're a mortgage broker, it's real estate agents. If you're an orthodontist, it's dentists. There are certain strategic relationships that businesses have with great referral sources where those, I call them the geese that lay the golden eggs, are going to keep giving referrals again and again based on the nature of their business. So those are my areas of expertise. How does a business generate more business by referral from their clients? How does a business generate more business by referral from professionals and other synergistic businesses that are not their clients? The strategies to do so, the assessments of the individuals and their skill and their will. Having tools to use, like a CRM tool, is usually very big in terms of the work that we do. And also having some scripts or outlines, a plan of action of what to ask and what to say, how to build a relationship, rehearsing and practicing that, writing it down, having stories of success about referral that I mentioned a moment ago, having those in writing so that they can be used not only by the person individually, the business owner, but by anyone on the team. You can even have someone working virtually from the Philippines or from India who can learn some of these referral stories of success, and have the person at the front desk, virtual or not, use these stories. So my area of expertise is in referral relationships, and it can be applied, as I mentioned, to a lot of different businesses.
So Jeff, let's talk about kind of the process a little bit. I appreciate you giving such a thorough background of your expertise and your experience and the things that we hope to cover and learn if we can get some of these tidbits today.
Yeah.
So the first thing is really around storytelling, right? It's been story, usually sales stories, what you hear. But your concept is really more around referral stories and not just the sales stories. How is that different? If I were to go in and sell somebody on a story, or sell them as opposed to a story related to referral, how are the two different?
I'll just use a simple example, as they've done in movies before. They use the pen, right? So if I'm going to try to sell this pen, I might tell you as the prospect about another person who was a prospect and the problem that they had, and then they bought the pen, and then the problem was resolved. It's an emotional arc from bad to good. So that's simply story selling. That's been around for probably longer than I've lived. I'm 48 years old. It's been around a long time. What we're trying to do is take that story selling about the prospect who becomes the client and put that in the middle. So let's call that step number 2 of 3. It's right in the middle. At the beginning, in step number 1, what you're going to have is the referral source. So let's say John's the referral source and Jane becomes the prospect. John refers us to Jane. So what would be the problem that John would have? And then John has that problem resolved at the end. So John is really the bookend, the beginning and the end of the story. John's the referral source. And if you think about your business for a moment, isn't a goose more important than an egg? Now, there are some exceptions, of course, but generally, a really good referral source can be much more important for your business than any one particular client would be. I'll go back to the example of a mortgage broker and a real estate agent, or an orthodontist and a dentist. That dentist can refer that orthodontist tons of new clients. It's much more important than any one particular client would be that dentist relationship. So if you are thinking about getting a referral from a guy like John, maybe you tell John a story about someone like him. So if you're in front of a referral source or a prospect, you can talk about how John has a problem, then he gives the referral, and then John has a resolve. So let's make something up. John, let's say, knows his friend Jane. They've been friends for a long time. Jane's always, and again, it's just a pen, so we'll use a silly story here. Jane's always making a mess in his office every time she comes over because her pen leaks. And John's, getting his office damaged. And he's really concerned that Jane's pen's leaking. So he has a problem. He makes the referral to Jane. Obviously, we go through the normal sales story about the features and benefits of the pen, and we sell as you would normally do in any sales story to Jane. And then at the end of the story, we've got John. Now Jane's able to come to his office and everything's really clean. She's able to sign the documents he needs her to sign, and they're doing more business together than ever before. Jane also said, John, thank you so much for referring me to the pen salesman. I really appreciate it. So their relationship is better. And you can include these elements in the story. So the emotional element goes from John having a bad time, then the who's having a bad time, and then you fix that with the product or service, and then back at the end to John in step number 3 and how he feels a little bit better. I think it would be better than using the silly pen example actually right now, Jess, to go into the story that I know that you have. I think it's about a resort, a person that you were in contact with who we'll call John as the referral source. and then he introduces you to Jane, who works at the resort. John, I think in this story, was a person who actually was a tenant of the resort, had a residential and a business property at that resort. So maybe you could elaborate on the story a little bit.
Yeah, Jeff, absolutely. So our business has changed over the years. We started as a hosting company, really as a shared hosting company focused on e-commerce. And over the years, we changed and became more of a cloud services company. And as we became a cloud services company, we found that a large number of businesses were adopting cloud and needed somewhere to go with that. With more than 2 decades of experience helping businesses with that very same thing, whether it was to our cloud or to a third-party cloud like Azure or Amazon, we had that expertise. So we began helping businesses with that. As we started helping businesses with their on-premise services and migrating to the cloud, they would come to us and ask us to take over more and more of that responsibility. Some of that is around Wi-Fi networks and networking in general. So in John's case, he was a tenant at a resort. Now, many of the resorts today aren't just hotels, right? They're hotels with shopping plazas, business offices, and everything. They're mixed use. Businesses have come to realize that they can make a better return on profit when they turn that property into a mixed use property like that. And that was the case here. This was a resort. It had a private club attached to it. It had restaurants. It had meeting rooms, but it also had business offices and everything you would expect from a hotel associated with it. So John was a tenant in the resort and also a member at the club. And the issue he had is that each time he went to the club, he would either have really bad Wi-Fi access, or his order would always get lost. His order wouldn't show up from the kitchen in time. It would get lost in the kitchen. When it came time to check out, the point of sale machine, the credit card processing machines, none of that would work. It really caused a lot of pain for John. Now, that pain for John wasn't just the fact that he couldn't check out his food or he had bad internet. It was that he was being impacted when he would bring his business associates with him there to have lunch. And when you walk in and say, oh, here's this beautiful club I'm a member of, and come sit down, let's chat. And the Wi-Fi doesn't work. The food comes out late. They're not able to take a credit card. It's just issue after issue after issue. It reflects poorly on John.
I think if I remember the word that you used to describe how John was feeling, and we can just, to make it simple, John was really embarrassed about this. And that's that negative feeling that we're starting with in step number 1. We've got our referral source. He's feeling embarrassed. So that's a negative emotion. And we'll see at the end of the story, it changes. So please go ahead. I think the referral's next, right?
Yeah. So John referred us to the GM at the resort and said, hey, here's my friend Jess. They know all this internet stuff, right? All this IT stuff. Why don't you talk to them? So when we went over, we had a conversation. We looked at it and we identified pretty quickly where the issue was. The issue in this particular case, there were a litany of issues. For the GM, it was the fact that his IT company, every time they came on site, he'd get a bill. And because they were having a bad internet experience, they were on site a lot. So it kind of worked out to their advantage as the IT company to not fix the issues, because the more issues they had, the more money they made. It worked out really well, right? So we came in, we identified that. We'd identified where the issue was with their servers and their systems. And we also identified that they had an issue with their Wi-Fi. And we provided them a proposal on how to fix all of that and address it. And we did. We helped the resort, and in helping the resort, we helped John as well.
And so at the end of the story, now John went from feeling embarrassed. How's he feeling now?
Well, so John's ecstatic, right? Because now he doesn't have those concerns. Regardless of where you are, you just want your technology to work. You don't want to worry about it. Whether it's in your business, whether it's at a hotel you're visiting or wherever, those are things you just don't have time and don't want to be distracted with. And you shouldn't be. And that's what we do for both the resort, all the resort's guests, and for John.
I don't really know this, but I hope that John is inviting you to the club and buying you lunch there at some point, or has already.
Some of the best fried grouper sandwiches I've ever had, Jeff.
Okay, so I was right. That's a good lucky twist. So simply just to reiterate where we're doing, and each one of you listening can probably figure out a story like this, where you might have focused just on the client, Jane, right? So Jane's the client. You focus on the problem Jane had and what you provided your solution to fix it. But if you expand the story, go before and after with the referral source, now more people can relate to the story. So part of what I do with my clients is I help them to discover what their referral stories are, look at some of their best clients on their roster of clients and figure out where did each one come from, delve into the stories and figure out which stories are the most relatable, the most clear, the most concise, the most emotionally charged so that they can make a good story. And then we rehearse and practice those stories, put them in writing. They can be used on a broadcast. They can be used, if you want to, in social media marketing. They can be used, of course, in conversation. When you're talking with someone who's a client, when you're talking with someone who's a referral source, you can tell that story, prepare to tell that story, and then ask some feedback questions afterwards. I call those the X factors. So in that story, imagine I was telling that story about John, the referral source, then to the GM, and then eventually to John, who's feeling ecstatic. After that story, I'm going to ask what I call an X factor question. And I'm trying to figure out in the eyes of the listener, in the brain of the listener, what do they think is the motivation to refer business? In other words, why do they think that John referred the business to me? Why do they think that they might refer the business to me? What's in it for them? So we might say to someone, based on hearing that story, what do you think is the motivation for people like John and yourself to refer business to us? And whatever they say, that's X, the X factor. They might say because you help people a lot, or because you're great at your service, or you're the best thing since sliced bread, whatever they say. And I would imagine you'd want to capture that information. And here's where we're going from what I would call training to something that's systematic for an organization. I can train someone, as I've hopefully just trained you all listening a little bit, to ask these X factor questions. But when you make it systematic, in other words, you have a database of all your clients and referral sources, and you even have a special custom field or a row in a spreadsheet, a column in a spreadsheet perhaps, where you're capturing that X factor information. Now you can be systematic and organized with it. You can go back and use that language for your benefit. In the law and on Law and Order, you hear something that goes like, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Well, anything they say in terms of X factors can and will be used in the course of getting referrals. That's the idea. Capture their language. This is a little bit of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Capture whatever your referral source says is the X factor, and then use that language back. So you tell the story, you capture what they think is the motivation to give a referral. That's the next step. And then after that, you can use that language in order to ask for a referral. So they say, well, the reason why people refer you is because of X, because you're the best, or you're really good, or you're a good value, or whatever they say is the reason to refer. Or maybe they say the X is even more of a motivating factor for them. They might say, well, the reason I refer you business is because you refer it back to me. Or in some businesses where it's legal, they might say the reason I refer you business is because you pay me a referral fee. That's the motivation. So whatever the real motivation is even stronger than the justification. Marketing companies will typically have you capture the justification for giving you referrals, which is all about you and your company. But really, if you think about it, the referral source is selfish, as most humans are. So try to capture not just the justification for giving you a referral, which is about you and your company, but the motivation to give you a referral, which is really what's in it for them. So if you can capture the X factor as the justification, more importantly, the motivation to give referrals, capture that in writing, in your database, in their exact language to the best of your ability, then you can use that information again and again and again to go back and get more referrals. You can always say, hey, who do you know who would appreciate X? Or who do you know that would help us get more X for you? Whatever that motivating or justification factor may be. Jess, what do you think?
I think it's on point. Now, Jeff, one thing that you've done with referrals is that you really treat it like a sales, right? In the sense that there's a process around it. If it's not in the CRM, it didn't happen. And that's the same thing with referrals, right? Can you talk about that and the importance of scoring your referral sources and tracking those referrals? You
Absolutely.
spoke to it just briefly.
Yeah, I think, if I can be simple, everybody imagine a spreadsheet. You have all of your contacts in each different row, every contact. Your clients, yep. Your prospects, yep. Your referral sources, yep. Everybody, all of your contacts in one spreadsheet. And then you have a special column that's just designed for ranking people as a referral source. So your clients could be a referral source, of course. They're probably your best, not always. You have other professionals like that dentist, orthodontist, mortgage broker, realtor type of relationship, those special synergistic relationships, those could be great referral sources. And what's usually uncovered when I talk with people is a lot of prospects that come in, they don't buy, they're just prospects. They never become clients, but couldn't they be referral sources, or couldn't they introduce you to another referral source? In other words, if you're that orthodontist, maybe they can't introduce you to somebody with crooked teeth, but they might be able to introduce you to another dentist, right? So every prospect could introduce you to a prospect or a better referral source than they are. So as you're working with every conversation, try to have it be more robust. Find out about what people think, are their own strengths, what they think are their goals, who they know, what types of groups and organizations they're a part of, what maybe concerns they have, what action they're taking to reach their goals, what are they doing with their time, who are they doing it with. Get to know them and who they know. The wise owl once said, who? So be a wise owl. Find out who people know as you're getting to know them. Don't wait to ask for referrals for the first time you're finding out who they know. Say, I don't know anybody you know. Who can you refer to me? Versus, hey, I know that you know these 25 people. Which one is the best for me? Is a lot easier. So get to know who they know and document that inside your spreadsheet. The other thing to document is the X factors. As I mentioned, you might have a separate column. And then, as I mentioned, a column for ranking them. I like to use something simple, but you can use whatever you like. A, B, C, D. And what I mean by that is if Jess, for example, has a spreadsheet with all of his contacts, and he's got thousands, we can rank people as a referral source, A, B, C, D. Here's how I like to translate it. A means Jess is absolutely going to talk to that person. He's going to tell that referral story. He's going to ask for the X factors. He's going to ask for referrals. And it's not that he could or should do it. It's that he's going to do it. The A's are the really serious ones. So for someone like Jess, who runs a company, so many employees, so many clients already, he doesn't have time to do this with thousands of people. We'll probably identify anywhere between 10 and 100 people that would be the A's for someone like Jess or someone like you probably listening. Somewhere between 10 and 100 is usually a good rule of thumb that you've identified as the A's. This is the one. These are the people that I'm really going to do this with. I'm going to tell these stories, get the X factor, get the referral, find out who they know, etc. And then the rest below would be B's. B's would be people who you probably should get referrals from. They're good contacts. They may be members of your networking groups or organizations. They may be part of the charity that you're on the board of, or whatever is in your life, the people around you. You think, yeah, I could probably get referrals from these people, but they're not the absolute have-tos. And those are the B's. You should do as many of those as you can. And when you see them reactively, if you come across them, try to apply the same techniques that you're more purposefully applying with the A's. And then the C's are the people you've identified that you could do it, but you're not planning to. There's no plan of action in place. You're not going to call them. You're not going to email them. You're not going to be proactive to introduce them and find out who they know, but you could. They're still in your database. And if you're doing mass marketing, email database or some of the mass text messages or something like that, then you can use the C's and mass market to them. But in terms of your individual time as a professional or a business owner, typically the C's, you're not actually going to contact one-on-one. And then the D's would be the lowest, someone who you think, oh, I definitely don't want to get referrals from that person. They're a bad apple, for example. And there should be very few D's in your own database. So if you have a spreadsheet or a database, a CRM tool, even more robustly, where you can rank and prioritize A, B, C, D, all of the contacts, and yes, all of them, all of the contacts that you have, and rank them A, B, C, D. And then you'll know better that you can invest your time into the best referral sources, capture information about their strengths and goals and concerns and what they're doing, ways that you can help them, such as you making referrals and introducing them to people, inviting them places, giving them the emotional support that they want, as they might be amiables or expressives or drivers or analytics, capturing that information, making it systematic. And then, of course, having planned referral stories, having maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of them in writing. So every time you go back to somebody, you can tell them a new referral story, get another X factor, and ask for a referral again. Those are some of the things that I do. And I can do that for, of course, an individual person, or a small team, or a large team.
So what's interesting, Jeff, right, is that most small businesses, when they start out, they grow their business through word of mouth. You hear it time and time again. How do you grow? Word of mouth. Our service is fantastic. We're wonderful. Our product's the best. Our food and our restaurants, the best. People just, it's word of mouth. That's how we grow. But businesses and business owners, they don't really put a process to how to grow that word of mouth, those referrals. And when you put that process in place, it really helps to escalate those referrals and grow it substantially more. What else is it that businesses should be doing when they look at growing their word of mouth or their referral network? For example, if I meet somebody, when's the best time to ask for a referral?
That's a great. Let me table that for one moment. What I'll say is that, the vast majority of businesses that are going to hire me are already referral based. Like you said, they start out referral based. They're going to continue referral based. They may do advertising, but that's going to be definitely less than 20% of their new client acquisition or customer acquisition or patient acquisition is going to be by marketing. They're already referral based. But a lot of companies are reactive in terms of referrals. They sell a pen, it's a great pen, and they wait for referrals to come in. They sell a really great pen and they give really great customer service when they sell that pen. And maybe some more referrals will come in, but they're still not proactive, are they? They're proactive in their product, their service, but they're not proactive in terms of getting referrals. So that's, I think that if I can oversimplify, perhaps that's really the distinguishing factor. If you're not referral based already, I probably can't help you because you don't have a good pen. It's not working. But if you're already referral based, and you think that you're kind of waiting for referrals, you're doing such a good job, such good customer service that you already get referrals, that's a good sign that you can then be proactive to go and get referrals proactively. Go ask people what they think, ask people who they know, ask them who they know would appreciate the X factor that they mentioned was good about you or the reason to refer you. So being proactive versus reactive is, I think, a really important thing. Jess, repeat your question to me. I already spaced it as I put it on the table aside.
No problem at all, Jeff. I think you covered a really important topic, and that is that you have to go after it. You have to be proactive. You have to say, you know what, I'm going to grow my business through word of mouth, through referrals, and I'm going to put effort in it. I'm not going to sit back and wait for the phone to ring. You remember the Maytag guy? He'd just sit there and wait for the phone to ring forever, and it just wouldn't happen. Instead, go out and ask for it. My question for you is, when's the best time to ask for a referral?
Thank you so much. I'll use an example from my prior life. Before I started my own consulting firm about 11 years ago in 2009, I worked in the financial services industry. So I'll use that as an example. I always thought this was a good one. But a lot of times financial planners would do, CFP, certified financial planners, or others that sell a financial planning service, would be they'd get, let's say, a husband and a wife, let's say John and Jane, the husband and wife, as clients. They'd sit down and they'd sell them certified financial planning or financial planning services, comprehensive financial planning. And then we'd talk internally in the company with the advisors and talk about, well, when are you going to get referrals from these clients, John and Jane? And the answer oftentimes was somewhat logical. Well, let's get the information from the clients. They've already paid. Let's gather the information. Let's do a first draft of the financial plan. Let's come in, have them talk about it. We'll redo the financial plan to make it finalized. We'll deliver the financial plan. We'll implement some of the strategies. In other words, roll over the assets, do the insurance, do the banking or whatever the financial elements were of the financial plan. We'll implement those, retirement accounts, etc. And then once we have it all in place, we can ask John and Jane for a referral. Now that makes sense. There's some clear logic there. I won't deny it. However, there's also some better logic, I think. The first day that John and Jane come in, is that the first time they've ever heard of financial planning? No. Have they been thinking for weeks, months, maybe years about having a financial plan in place, but haven't done it yet? Do they have some sort of weight on their shoulders that's been on them? Boy, Jane, we really should have a financial plan. Yeah, John, we really should. We don't have anything. We don't have a financial planner. Our neighbors down the street do. My brother does, but we don't. So they have some weight on their shoulders. And that first day when they write that check, maybe it's for $1,000 or $5,000 for that financial planner to do that financial plan, to be their financial planner, that's the day when they actually have that burden lifted off their shoulders emotionally. Now, they don't have their financial plan yet, but they have the relief, that emotional relief. Jane, I'm so glad we finally have this guy who's going to be our financial planner, or this gal is going to be our financial planner. I feel better. That's the time to get referrals. Find out what John and Jane, who they know, find out what they think is tell them a referral story, tell them about another client like them who had given a referral, ask the X factor question right in that first meeting, and ask about other professionals that you can meet. In other words, John and Jane might be able to introduce you to their accountant or their real estate professional or some other professional that gives them advice aside from financial. Or maybe they have an attorney for some reason, a trust and estate attorney, that tax professional, that real estate professional, that legal professional. Those can all be other referral sources for that financial advisor. So John and Jane, as referral sources, the geese, they can refer you to other potential geese. And John and Jane may also refer you to other eggs, right? They can also refer you to other prospective clients, maybe their brother or sister or a neighbor or friend or colleague from work. They can refer you right then and there. They're feeling proud. And some people, most humans, they like to justify their own behavior by having other people do it. If I love the restaurant, Jess, you should eat there. if I hired this financial advisor, you might want to. Now, that's not everybody. I don't mean to say that's everybody, but there's a lot of benefit to that. So the best time to ask for referrals, in a short answer, is today. That's the best time.
Fantastic, Jeff. Jeff, what else should we cover on referrals that we haven't covered?
I think that it's really good that we covered the idea of being systematic and organized, that we talked about having referral stories of success prepared. And if you're the first, if it's your first day at the company and you don't feel like you personally have referral stories yet, just use the word we. We, as you've joined the company, we have these referral stories. We talked about being proactive versus reactive. I think those are some of the major things. And then the idea that just about every business is more referral based than they are marketing. You know, law firms, for example, that's an area where I mentioned I have a lot of different clients. They get phone calls all the time from marketing companies. Marketing companies, I guess, have an assumption that lawyers make a lot of money and they should be spending a lot on advertising. And there's some truth to that, of course. Marketing is a $1 trillion business for a reason. It works. Advertising works. But most of the clients that I work with are doing a very small percentage of their business by marketing. Even the ones that you see on the billboards. When I delve in, I know a lot of the firms, especially here in South Florida, the ones that you even see on the billboards, you think, well, they must be getting all their business from marketing. Not true. The vast majority of even those firms that you see doing the marketing, like the personal injury firms, the bigger ones, they're still doing a very large percentage of their business by referral. So don't believe the hype when it comes to marketing, and instead do marketing with referral stories. You know, you can do a conversation-based marketing by talking to someone who's a client or a professional and get referrals and marketing in that way. And you can also use these referral stories online. You can use social media to tell your referral stories, LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. And I guess someday TikTok will be popular for business, as it's very popular with kids today. Who knows what the next platform will be? I'm sure there's one out there that I didn't mention that people are thinking, oh, Jeff, you forgot about this one. I'm sure I did. There's a lot of platforms out there where you can push your marketing stories and make them referral stories. I would guess that's a good summary. But the other thing I think we wanted to talk about was events and moderation.
We do, but I want to go back to referrals real quick, because you did touch on one thing there that I think is important, and that's around these, you know, the large law firms, that they're using that marketing. In their case, even if they're not getting that business from the marketing, is that marketing there to really build the brand awareness, so that when you say, hey, go talk to this firm, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I've heard of them before.
Yes, even I, as the Referral Navigator, and build my business almost exclusively on referrals. I still have a website. You can go look at it right now. It's the referralnavigator.com, but don't expect too many bells and whistles. Very simple website. I think you want to have some form of marketing, some form of brand recognition. You want to have something that looks like you're a real company to make people feel that you're legitimate. Even if the referral comes in first, still it's important to have some form of marketing, to have a brand, to have a logo. This pen's been well used over the years, so it's kind of over the months, so it's been rubbed off. But even I have pens that have my business logo on the pens. So marketing is a good thing. Most companies that I talk to will realize that referrals are even better. It's not to say marketing's bad. Marketing's good, but referrals are even better. So when you can tailor those strategies together and use referral stories rather than just client stories as one of your main marketing strategies, then I think that gives even more justification. You know, someone came up with an idea about using LinkedIn that I really like. People often say you should post content, show yourself as an expert. So lawyers could relate to this. You know, post articles about the changes in the law, post articles about, you know, recent cases. So you show your expertise, maybe an article you write or just an article someone else wrote and you comment on it and share it. That content-based marketing. Content is king, as they say. But even stronger than that strategy might be, you have your list of your best referral sources. Let's say for a law firm, we're talking about other lawyers who are referral sources in just this example. Well, what about posting that content and then picking up the phone and calling 5 or 10 of your best referral sources, talking about the article that you just posted in a conversation, and then getting them to log on while you're on the phone and comment, share, like, you know, add to the comments that are actually on the LinkedIn right then and there. So now you're combining, I think, in this example, some of the best of the both worlds. You're doing online LinkedIn content-based marketing, writing an article, showing your expertise, and at the same time engaging your top 10 referral sources in that content. So it's one at a time and mass marketing combined. And I think that's where a lot of people will will fail. They'll do one or the other, but not combine the two. And when you can combine a marketing social media strategy with conversations with your best referral sources, then I think you're able to take it to that next level.
And so what you're talking about there really is engaging with these potential referral sources, with these customers, with these contacts, really engaging a lot, right? You're constantly networking, meeting, calling, speaking. I mean, that's a big part of the process too.
One of the things that I have, in addition to a written business development plan and a CRM database, I also have a tool that's a set of questions and an activity and results tracker. So the tool that's a set of questions, I've written out over the last 11 years about 150 different questions. They're in 18 different steps that are about understanding someone's strengths and goals and concerns and actions and helping them. Those are the first 5, sort of the relationship building. And then it's steps 6 through 13 are going to be steps around the referral relationship, telling that story, getting the feedback, asking for the referral, finding out, what that referral source has in terms of relationship with that referral first. In other words, the goose's relationship with the egg, rather than just taking the egg and running as soon as the goose lays it for you. Finding out what the goose is going to tell the egg about you, finding out how the goose wants to make that connection, telling the goose how you're going to treat the egg once you get to meet them, and how you're going to say good things about the goose, because of course the goose is probably in business too. There's something to be said to the egg about the goose. Finding out not just what the referral source wants, but then showing them how at the end of the referral, when they introduce the egg to you, once they become a client or customer of yours, that it's going to come back and help the original referral source. And if not directly from the egg that they lay, then maybe you yourself might take them to dinner or take them to lunch or something. So those steps are in what I call the questions and stories database. The next 5 steps are really about closing the deal. This is more traditional sales training. I don't think I differentiate myself a lot in that area. There are tons of great sales training books and people out there. So in this way, I don't think I'm that different. I'm much more unique in the area of referral generation, the first 13 steps, if you will. The last 4, steps 14 through 18, are about, understanding the customer's concerns, understanding their goals, understanding what they're planning to do already about the problem, understanding the urgency, and then closing the deal. So that's a 5-step sales process. That's at the end of the 18. So I have that database, already questions written out, and that's where we start to customize. So I think that's important. The other thing that I have is an activity and results tracker, so that we can have, for an individual, or even better for a team, some sort of cooperation amongst a team, right? Where they're all tracking how many times they're asking for referrals, how many referrals they're getting, how many referrals it takes to get a client, how much money they make per client, so they can see it in writing. And that helps to hold them accountable, which is really tied very closely to motivation. And it's also really good for the business owner to understand what his or her employees are doing. So activity and results tracking is part of what I do, a database of questions that people can rehearse and practice and use effectively in conversations, the database to track all the referral sources and information about them and their X factors and who they know. And then, of course, a business development plan, which goes through that individual or company's strengths and goals and concerns, what they're doing, and how they may want help from me. Those are some of the tools that I use with clients to be systematic and organized with their business development strategy.
Thank you, Jeff. Now, Jeff, a big part of your business and that referral today especially is online meetings. Whether it's a 2-on-1, a 1-on-1, you've done a ton. So just to take a step back, part of your referral business is you like to make those introductions, make those referrals, and bring them together. And one of the ways I've noticed you've kind of changed that is as people have gone to social distancing and not going out having coffee or having lunch, you've been making that engagement online. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yes. What used to be a phone call for me is now a Zoom call. What used to be a coffee is now a Zoom call. So whether it was a phone call or a face-to-face meeting, they're both Zoom. And that's funny because it's not really that logical, right? What used to be a phone call probably should still be a phone call. We could have done Zoom before, but the culture's changed. And that's a funny word. Everybody misinterprets it in some way, the way they want to. But I think it's really about the stories that people tell and the behavior changing. So what used to maybe seem weird when we could have done a phone call to do it on video now seems normal. And it has a lot to do, I think, with the kids, right? I'm not a parent myself, but I'm an uncle. And so I know that a lot of the young kids are doing now Zoom and other platforms to do their education. So, and I'm oversimplifying, of course, but if the kids can do it, why can't we? Right? What's the reason why two lawyers can't do a Zoom call if their kids are on Zoom, when they're 5 years old, 10 years old doing it? So the culture has changed very, very quickly. It's an amazing cultural shift, the impacts of which I think I understand pretty well, but none of us really understand that well. I don't know what it's going to lead to, but it's certainly the impacts are being felt and realized and seen already, and they're going to be seen for years, if not decades and forever to come. The amount of the percentage of times that we'll be doing virtual calls versus in person, the amount of shift in the real estate industry and the use of office space and other types of facilities has changed dramatically. There's so much that's changing. So I was lucky because I had this, as I mentioned before, this background in using virtual tools to manage my own team from corporate America, a big company, American Express Financial Advisors. Certainly they know what they were doing. And I had this experience training others on how to use it. So when COVID hit, it was really just a matter of me telling my assistants, hey, everybody, from now on, instead of a phone call, Zoom, instead of a face-to-face Zoom. Everybody got it? Got it. It was that long. That's how long it took me to make the shift. And it was that easy. For other people, it really wasn't that easy. It really was a difficult transition. It took days, weeks, sometimes even a month or so to get used to it. Some people maybe even still aren't used to it or not using it effectively. But for me, it was that fast. We just said it and it happened. And so what I've been able to do is those one-on-one calls on Zoom instead of in face-to-face or over the phone. And then the virtual meetings, we talked about being a meeting facilitator or a meeting moderator. I've done over 1,000 face-to-face meetings as the moderator here in South Florida over the last 10 or 11 years. So I have a lot of experience moderating events. Immediately they shift to online, which I had that experience in my back pocket from so many years ago. And it happened very seamlessly, people joining in on the Zoom call. Now, happened seamlessly for me, not necessarily for them. Of course, you know, and I know, and we all know that some people aren't very good with those virtual tools. On and off with the mute button is the biggest challenge in the world. They can't figure that out. Having a bright window behind them and being totally black in the face because you can't see anything but that bright light behind them. People weren't used to that. There were some very obvious literally glaring issues that were happening on those Zoom calls early on. And I think people have learned to use those things more effectively. The experience that I had was in using interactive WebEx calls where we'd have a whiteboard, where we'd have a chat panel, where we'd have people raising their hand or making smiley faces, emoticons. And this was 12, 14 years ago that we were doing this. So using those tools interactively, I think there's one thing that people probably know already. It's about setting expectations. It's about taking your time with a couple of the first people that the moderator might interact with on the call to be clear with them exactly how to use the tool. You're just having a conversation really with one person in front of everybody and helping that person to raise their hand one at a time, helping that person to turn off that bright light behind them or close the shades, helping that person to chat something in the chat panel like their contact information, something really simple, so that you get people starting to use the tools. So those are really, really exciting. I've had better attendance at the virtual meetings than some of the in-person meetings for most of my clients, where they hire me as the moderator for their event, whether it's a panel discussion, an interactive networking group, CFO roundtable. I've done basically any kind of format that a professional firm would do. I've been the moderator of those kinds of events, and it's a lot of fun. CLE events, continuing legal education, for those who don't know that acronym. Lots of different licensing, education, curriculum type of events where I act as the moderator, not the expert. Those are a lot of fun. And then there's the one that's in the middle, which I wanted to mention. Not just the one-on-one meetings, which are Zoom now instead of phone calls or coffees, not just the events, which I think people are aware of, but those three-way calls. That's something that I find extremely exciting, and I'm sort of kicking myself thinking, why wasn't I doing this before? And that's a good thing to admit to all of you, and also maybe an inspiration for you to start yourselves. 6 months ago, was a year ago, Jess, if I wanted to introduce you to John Smith, we could have gone to coffee together, but we didn't. We didn't do that too much, right? Every once in a while, you'd set up a three-way coffee, three-way breakfast, three-way lunch, whatever, and introduce two people and have three of you at the table, the real table. But we didn't do it that often. Some people did a lot, but not that much typically. Most of us have not done too many of those. We've experienced them, but it's not something we did all the time. Now, ever since COVID hit and we started using Zoom, I have been doing those three-way calls multiple times per day. Every day I have in my calendar someone like you, Jess, who I'm going to introduce to someone else that I know, or someone like you, Jess, and find out someone else that I don't, and doing a three-way call with the two of you. So on those three-way calls for me, myself, and everyone's going to do these differently. I'm not suggesting you do it the way I do. I'm suggesting doing the three-way calls, but figure out your own way. For me, what I like to do, I like to be the moderator. I don't want to be the one talking the whole time as I'm doing here today. Instead, I like to moderate the discussion. So I'll find out about each of the two people, find out their strengths, their goals, who they know, their concerns, what they're doing. And by the end of the call, try to get the two of them to help each other. And I'll add in my 2 cents to try to make introductions. I try to set the expectations at the beginning of the call that each of those two people are going to introduce each other to a prospect or a referral source, like that mortgage broker realtor relationship, or invite them each other to another event, or to follow up for the two of them and have a one-on-one meeting after the three-way call. So those three-way calls are something that I've been doing very successfully. My clients enjoy them. Other people that get to meet my clients through those calls enjoy them, and they're extremely easy to do. People are very quick to say yes to those three-way calls and put them in their calendar. Whereas if we were trying to schedule a lunch, it's like, well, talk to my secretary, we'll figure out a time, and then it kind of gets put on the back burner. So one-to-ones, obviously, group meetings, I think people know about. It's those three-way calls that I think are exceptionally powerful for my business in the last few months.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. Just real quick, because I noticed that we're starting to have some audio problems with the call here today. I wanted to ask you, what were the things that you see people doing wrong today in the meetings, and what should they really focus on correcting?
I'm such an analytic. I see so many things that are wrong. It's probably a personality flaw of mine to see so many things that are wrong. I think, we already covered a few of them, which are about being, well, I'll add something where people are unprepared. They come into a group meeting for, let's say, attorneys, for example. That's the one I did today. And they come just to kind of listen and participate. And I think it's like showing up to lunch with no real agenda. And that's okay, but it's not good. It's not great. It's not exceptionally great. And so you have your chance when you're an attendee of an event and the moderator asks you to talk about your strengths. Are you prepared? Do you have a story to tell rather than just a resume list? Do you have something interesting to add to the conversation? There's probably some sort of agenda that you can get your hands on. And if the agenda is pretty basic where anyone can contribute, a lot of people will look at that and say, well, I know enough to be able to talk about that, and they won't prepare. So this is the obvious advice for people. Don't go to an event, virtual or in person, unprepared. Come with something to say about yourself. Come with a story to tell that's specific with details that motivates and informs people. Come with some information about whatever the topic is. Today, our topic was about interpersonal and business communication. And so we were talking about personality styles, the amiables and expressives and drivers and analytics, and how you are able to, or supposed to be able to, adjust your communication style for those different personality styles, for yourself as one of those four, for the other person as one of those four, or if you have an audience that's made up of multiple personalities, or I guess one person made up of multiple personalities if you're civil. But the idea is that you can come prepared, do a little research, go on the internet and do some research on whatever the topic is. Go on Wikipedia. That was the name I was looking for. Go and research a little bit. Come prepared with some information about the topic. Be ready to give, an example, give an article, give a method, give a 5-step process, give something of value to the other people who are on the call. Don't just come to listen, come to participate. I think that's the mistake that I see most often.
So I think that's a great topic right there, is don't just come to listen, come to participate and be prepared up front. Jeff, I want to thank you for the time today. Is there anything else you want to add before we call it a day?
I want to talk about you and your business and your referral sources. So you're going to do something like with Microsoft Cloud, Azure, you're going to do Microsoft 365. You're going to protect people from cybersecurity, getting hacked, their passwords. You're going to be their outsourced IT professional. So if the computer goes down, who are they going to call? Your company. Who are your best referral sources? Obviously the clients, right? Those are good referral sources. Aside from the clients themselves, who are the type of people that are good referral sources for you? Who are the people that others should proactively introduce to you where you can have a mutually beneficial referral relationship?
So for Applied Innovations, good referral sources are usually the trusted advisors, the attorneys, the accountants, someone that goes in, speaks with these individuals, the insurance salesman, the business insurance salesman, even the doctor and the lawyer. it's someone that goes in that they trust that they confide in. They say, oh, we're having an issue. And, what are the kind of the things that say, ding, 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 you need to refer Jess. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm running late. I didn't get the report out in time. We had an issue with the server. You know what? You won't believe what happened. John in accounting got this email, thought it was from me, went to CVS and bought a bunch of gift cards and emailed them out. Come to find out, I went to some hackers and we're out $1,000. You want to look for cases like that. And the reality is that any business could use the services you talked about. It's cloud, IT, and cybersecurity. But a lot of businesses aren't going to make a move until they feel pain or they have a specific need that they need to address. And a lot of times it's as simple as sitting down and having a conversation about their business, what they're doing and what they're trying to do around their business goals. I've sat down with businesses that said, oh no, we're great. We don't need an IT company. As we dig in, we start to find out, oh, you're implementing a new ERP system. What are you doing about that ERP system? What other systems have you looked at? How's it going to interact with your existing systems? How's it going to interact with your vendors? Well, have you looked at this software? Have you looked at that software? And then having that conversation, we've identified that need there. Me, my team, we've got a wealth of experience and knowledge around anything technology. Just like with marketing and sales, business will come in and they'll tell you, I'm the expert because I know more than you do. But a lot of times they don't know more. And when you have a team like I have, we can bring in the entire team. And while I may not know it, someone else on the team probably does. And it's that knowledge that we're able to share.
I'm going to hope that, as you were saying, like attorneys, maybe accountants and other people that business owners rely on for advice, those can be good referral sources for you because they're trusted advisors. So I specifically have a new client who's a transactional law firm. There's 8 attorneys there. I'm going to make an introduction for you. And I'm doing that, here on camera, so to speak, to encourage others who are watching this, who are seeing this, who know Jess, who know about his strengths. So think about maybe that you and Jess and one other person could have a 3-way call where the 3 of you could learn more about each other personally, learn more about each other's businesses, and that 3-way call will be extremely beneficial. I know I'm going to plan one coming up very soon because you just reminded me of my new client and how I should be introducing you to them. Jess, thank you so much, as always, for having me on the call. I'm looking forward to more of our executive virtual roundtables and for you having more great guests on the Cyberside chat. I really appreciate being your guest today. It was a lot of fun talking about this.
Jeff, thank you. I'll include a slide with your contact information should anyone have more questions. They want to learn more about the Referral Navigator and what you do as a business. I'll encourage you to look at his contact information. And if you have those questions, by all means, reach out to Jeff. He's a great guy. He'll answer questions. He's not going to charge you any money to answer questions. And he'd love to get to know you and get more referrals. And likewise, if you have a IT issue, a cloud issue, or just want someone to talk tech with, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you as well. With that, I apologize for the dog. We are working from home. The dog likes to make noise. You guys have a great day. Take care, Jeff.
Bye. Thanks.